Take a deep breath. It'll be fine.
Okay, so the slides aren't working. Take lots of notes. If you know anybody, go over who's not missing it right now. They can go over to Superbrand Publishing on LinkedIn and get it there. So we're going to talk about author strategy tonight. And the reason that we are talking about this is that Jared and I have been talking for probably 6 months now about the publishing launches that we have been seeing. And one of the big problems is that people are coming to the end of their books and then they're starting to build their platform. And something you should know about a platform is it's not built in a day. It's not built in 3 months. This is your audience building component, and there are many things that come together to make this happening. You have to find a balance between digital marketing, which is difficult to learn for most people, and a personal connection. So what that means is you have to find that balance. First, you have to learn digital marketing, which is confusing for almost everybody. You probably will spend 3 to 6 months just floundering in everything that you're learning there. And then once you nail that and get that audience built, now you have to start building those personal relationships that are going to bring you the business that you want from the impact of your book. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about pulling the curtain back on the audience building, engagement, and the trust of the launch, and why you need a good year to be able to pull all of this together. So the first thing I was going to go into, and I wish I had the slide for it, is that a lot of times we are like children when it comes to this. We have this magical thinking. And I don't say that to be condescending. I say it in the sense that all of this takes practice. All of this needs to have consistent messaging and a stream. And we don't understand that going into it. So we may have been working with a book developer on who our audience is, but we always have to test that audience as well. So that's where that 3 to 6 months comes in, because a lot of times what happens with the launch is we think we know who our audience is, but as we're going through, we find out that that's not our audience at all. And if you're going to be pulling those people into your business, this is really, really an important point on there. So here's what you need to know about that. Most indie authors sell less than 100 books, period. So, and that's the reason that happens is, number one, because they haven't built that platform. But number two is because many of them go for what we call influencer status. That shift, there's a shift that needs to take place in that thinking. This is not about being an influencer. It's about building an audience and starting at square one and transitioning that audience into your products and services. And that requires trust. So you have to look at several items in your plan, and I'm going to talk a little bit about each of them. The first is, what's your brand and what's your message? One of the things we've encountered time after time is that people don't have a brand established. We have an author right now who's going to be launching in September who's in our courses because he had an idea, wrote a book, he's taught a course at a university, but he doesn't have a brand. He doesn't have a website. He doesn't have a way to connect with people. He's actually in our I Love Content course learning about social media, hashtags, VAs, how to post, what to post. So you have to have that solid brand message. The second is a content strategy. The third is social media engagement. The fourth is list building. The fifth is power partners. The sixth is media. And the last is launch and next steps. Where are you going with the book? One of the things that there's big misconception here is that you guys think that the book is the end all be all. The book is actually the nurture tool where people get to know you, and then that leads them into those bigger services you have. So first of all, the brand message. Let's talk about that. Authenticity. You have to be authentic. You can't copy someone else. If you're out there in the business world, people hire you because of you. People hire Jared because he has a particular personality. He's super patient and he has a real grasp on what you need to develop a book. Chris Johnson's on this call as well, who is the book developer for our company. Same thing. You're looking at a unique angle and you have to be you. People hire Jared because of his skill set. People hire me because I work with action people. We move along hand holding very quickly to get all of this set up. So that authenticity has to be there. The second thing is, what is your angle? There are probably 100 at least people who do what you do. What is your unique take on this skill set that you have? That has to be part of your brand message. And the third is, who's your audience? It's almost like no, I was going to say who's your daddy, but who is that audience? It can't be everybody. Is it? I'm gonna call Nan Nelson out because she's on this call. Nan has a perinatal book that she's working on revamping. She is in front of 7,000 doulas in the month of June. That's her audience. She knows that's her audience. So that's the niche she is coming into. So you have to really know who are those people and be precise about them. Is it psychiatrist? Is it somebody who's social justice like Kamiko on the call? Who is that precise person that is your ideal client? And then start attracting from there. So all of that is wrapped up in your brand message. And that brand message, it has to be consistent between your book, your business, and you. All of that has to fit together in perfect harmony, because in marketing, you have 3 seconds to make an impression. And if that is out of alignment from a neuromarketing standpoint, I can look at a page and see if it's out of balance. I can see if the messaging looks funky. So that's what people are looking for. And sometimes they will leave and not even know why themselves. So you have to have all of that in perfect alignment. The second is content strategy. And I have to tell you, when I went through your quizzes, I had you take those quizzes for a reason. I was looking for, where are these guys strong? Where are these guys weak? Almost every single person on this call was weak in content. And what that tells me is that you guys need to up your game. The biggest thing I hear about content is that I don't have time. Content is your non-salesy way of showing off your expertise and building trust with an audience. You must have it, and you must have it consistently and weekly. So whether that's a podcast, whether it's a blog, whether it can be any number of things. But you have to be out there with that content and putting it out consistently. The nice thing about content is, once you produce it, then you can repurpose it into other ways. So it's not just I did it this one time and now I have to go do something new. You can repurpose it into blog posts. I'll give you an example. I have a podcast. It's blog posts. It has a blog with it. That you can listen to it on, all the podcast channels. It's over on YouTube channel in video form. I repurpose that into magazine articles. I repurpose that into LinkedIn articles. It's repurposed all over the place. So once you have it established, then you can start repurposing, but you must have it. That is your trust builder. That's where people take a look at you and they say, that's a really interesting article. And then they start commenting on social media, and then they start asking questions, and then they start going to your business page, and then they start following you wherever you go on there. So it's really, really important that you get this established and working at least a year out, because that's where your clients come from. That's where they get curious about what you're doing. And if they do that before the book comes out, then the book is just an added treat to get to know you better before they buy something from you. So with content, you have to decide what is your platform that you can use that is consistent delivery, that you can up this every week. What is the trust builder? What is that message that you send on a weekly basis so that people know who you are and what you do? and what your book is going to be about. What is your unique value proposition that you share without any selling at all? You will find when you start getting good content out there, you don't need to sell anybody. People will just start following you because they're curious and then they become interested. Okay. The next is social media. You have to have a social media presence. That's one of the places where you put your content out there. So, with social media, what are you posting? Are you breaking your book down into posts? Are you breaking your podcast down into posts? Are you breaking your video down into bite-sized chunks that people can look at and go away from quickly? Remember, we all have ADHD these days, so you need to have something that is a minute to 2 minutes. That's about all people are going to give you, unfortunately. So that's what you have to do, is figure out what are those nuggets I can take out of my content and share on social media to start building that audience. Where are you posting? This is super important. We had a client a few years ago who it was solo to CEO. She was helping solopreneurs become CEOs of their own company and sort of get out of their business. She would not leave Facebook. And think about that for a moment. Where do you think that audience is at? It's on LinkedIn. So it was really, really difficult to even get her business off the ground, get her book off the ground, because she was promoting it in the wrong place. And that was a security issue for her. She knew Facebook, she knew it well. She didn't want to go learn LinkedIn. So understand where those clients are, and you need to be on that platform, even if you have to take a class, if you have to hire someone for a strategy. If those people are there, you have to do it. One of the things we did with Nan was she has been using Octopus CRM on LinkedIn for a year, and we've been doing that consistently. And that's where she got her in with the group of 7,000 doulas that she's going to be speaking to. Is she knew where her audience was. She's been hitting psychologists because it's perinatal work. She's been hitting grief and loss. She's been hitting psychiatrists. She's been hitting the doulas. Those are the people that are her ideal audience. And then where are you building a community? So from there, if people are following you, that's great. But are you inviting them to that business page? Do you have good content on the business page? This right now is running on my LinkedIn Live business page. So anybody who's over there can see it. So this would be considered content as well. Chris Johnson is on this call. Chris Johnson and Sarah Burke, my content director, we actually do a once a month live. We have one coming up next Friday. So, this is something we do on a regular basis to provide good content in addition to all of those other content pieces that we have. So that content piece is what you're going to use on social media to keep people there. So the next piece of the puzzle is list building. I have news for you guys. Your social media accounts are not yours. They belong to Mark Zuckerberg and I guess Elon Musk now, and whoever owns LinkedIn. That means that those groups of people that in those followers that you're gathering on social media, you have to be able to transition them into your list. Because I will tell you from Facebook, I have several clients who did not do that back in 2000, I want to say 15, when Mark Zuckerberg changed the algorithm from business page to communities, groups, and they lost huge audiences because they hadn't transitioned them into your list. So you have to have an opt-in with that. And your opt-in should not be a chapter of your book. It should be something compelling that leads them to other things to launch the book, not wait until the end and make it a chapter of your book. So you need to transition those people from social media. You need to have a weekly email that's a touch point that can be your content. It can be a lot of different things. What I don't recommend you do with your email list is sell, sell, sell. That is a major turnoff. If you're one of those people who's done a drip campaign where they tell you, do an opt-in, have 7 drip email campaigns and lead them to buy a product, throw that strategy away. Your list is about bringing value to your people. Where you're going to actually sell is when you get to the point where you build personal relationships with those people. You do not use your list to sell. That will get you the biggest unsubscribes you've ever seen. Now, we also use our list because it's larger for our bestseller campaigns as well, as does Jared. When we run one for his people, he does that as well, as does Christy. So usually anybody who's involved, Shannon does a lot of media work for us too, and she shares the bestsellers as well that she works on. So that's the only, like, we don't sell anything in our list. You're never going to get an email from us saying buy this today. That just doesn't happen. We either pick up the phone or we will personally email you and say, hey, I saw you had a weakness here and we discussed this on a call. You notice I said call. So we already have a personal relationship attached to it. And hey, this is coming up. Let me know if you'd like it. There's never a high pressure on any of it. So weekly touch points, measuring your open rates. This is really important. If you have, Jared will remember back from the joint venture inner circle days. We all had, we would promote each other's products on there, and people would come to me and they'd say, I'm looking for you to promote my product. How big is your list? And, I got to the point with it. It's like, yeah, I'm not promoting products. And by the way, I have a smaller list, but I have a 70% open rate. That's what you're looking at. You don't need a list of 10,000 people. And if somebody tells you you do, tell them to go pound sand. What's important is, do you have a list of 500 or 1,000 people? That would be your first goal. And do you have at least a 50% open rate? Because that means those people are engaged, they're actively reading, and they're actively interested and curious in what you're doing. So that's your goal, not the big list. There are people that call us all the time that run these events like, hey, if we have this big giveaway, do you want to be a part of it? We never participate in those anymore because what we got was big unengaged lists, and that didn't serve us at all. So how are you using? Again, no sales. It's value, and it's, that Jared's a perfect example. I don't know what he sends out, but I get his emails for his calls on Wednesday nights. That's a value proposition. Hey, we're inviting you to this. We're not going to sell anything on it. He never sells anything on it. So it's, where can you provide that value with your list? The next is power partners. Power partners are people, they're not the joint ventures that everybody talks about. We had a couple people back in February that we launched their books, and they had these big JV pushes. They didn't sell any books with them. Those people are not interested in buying books. Your power partners are people that have something similar or complementary to what you do, that you have built relationships that are promotional help and can add credibility with their audience. So I'm going to give you an example. We have a really fabulous book coming up, On the Shoulders of Mighty Women. And Leslie Michaels is the author. Her goal is to make the USA Today or Wall Street Journal bestseller list. In order to do that, we have to put a formula in use that we know is tried and true. She has power partners with over 200,000 people on their list. So that conglomeration, when we send out that book launch, is when we have that period, we want people to buy the book. She has established relationships with these people over the past 4 years, even before her book has come out at the end of July. And that's what we're aiming for. We have those relationships in place, and we also are ready to send out the emails when we need to drive the traffic to that book to get her to a bestseller list. So that's what you use those power partners with. And they're not, I cannot stress enough, a power partner is not a click partner. It's somebody that you can call and say, hey, Jared, did you send out that email? I'm not really seeing a lot of, much coming from it. Can you send out another one? Or what do you think's best? Do you think we should jump on a LinkedIn Live? So it's someone that you have a solid relationship who will help you out and hopefully is a good friend. I know all of my power partners are big buddies of mine. I help them, they help me, but it's something, I can't, how do I describe this? This is not somebody you say, hey, you, will you do this? This is someone that you've been talking to, that you're friends with. You know, how's your family? Chris, how's your mom doing? I know she took a fall. How are your kids doing in school? What's going on with COVID? I mean, these are people that you legitimately have a relationship with that you're turning to for help. So that's what you need, those power partners in place, and you need a commitment from them 3 to 4 months out. Hey, this is my launch date, and I need you to send out emails or promote on social media on these days. Can you do that? Can you make that commitment for me? And then get them the materials. The next thing is media. Media is something you need to start early. You have an expert status. Getting early bookings out there and having your face everywhere will serve you when your book comes out. So I'm going to give you a great example. Again, Leslie. Leslie hired our media specialist. Our media specialist she has done interviews for Thrive, Forbes, Authority Magazine. She's been on NTD and she's been on Newsmax. Her book is On the Shoulders of Mighty Women, Equity, Diversity, and Women's Issues. Okay. But she's not talking about her book. Jackie is getting her on to talk about Roe v. Wade, equal pay in the workplace. So by the time Leslie's book comes out, and they, you know, and every time they introduce her, they say, Leslie Michaels, author of the upcoming book On the Shoulders of Mighty Women, she's establishing herself as an expert. She's got herself going on with the face recognition and the expert recognition. So now we are actually using Octopus CRM and going out and connecting with some of those groups of women who are going to be pushing those books. So that you don't have to wait until your book comes out. You know, you can do that with your expert status in advance. You just need someone who can get you. I think she's been on, like, I want to say 36 podcasts in pre-promotion as well. And we don't even start promoting this book until the 21st of June. That's our pre-sale period. And she's already been in all of those places. So your face needs to be everywhere. Launch. This is where it gets complicated, you guys. Everything I just talked about, this is why you start so far in advance. It all has to be integrated. You have to have that list built. You have to have that social media audience built. You have to have that content out there before you even start talking about your book, and then decide what type of launch you're doing and launch your brand with it. So all of that, like I said, this is digital marketing. It doesn't happen in a day. You have to have all of those things in place, those power partners. It all has to flow smoothly. And if you haven't run a test campaign before your launch, you're in big trouble, because I'm sure, I know Chris knows, Jared probably knows too. Every time you run a campaign, something goes wrong. Something big. You saw today, we ran a campaign for this call and look how much went wrong. But something goes wrong every single time. And you don't want to be flustered in the middle of that campaign. You want to be able to say, okay, I didn't anticipate that my first email would go out in the wrong time zone. My VA actually set it up in the wrong time zone. So my people got it too early. So it's things like that where you have to get the bugs out before you go live. Otherwise, for lack of your launch is going to be a mess. That's why you get all of this in place. And then from there, your book is a nurture tool. So what's next? Where are you leading people who read the book? Where are you leading people from the launch of the book? What are your next steps? What is your monetization? Chris and I were just at Shannon Gronich's meeting. I'm sorry, Proceeds. She's Proceeds now. Her Media Magic event. And there was a girl who was telling everybody about her book. It was so amazing. And she was name dropping. And then we asked her the big question. So how are you monetizing that? She had no next step in place. She has Gaia. Is it Gaia? She has Gaia on board to promote this book. She has no next step for these people. I mean, how are you going to monetize that? Do you have a course? Do you have consulting? Do you have, what does that look like? Where do people find it? How do they sign up for it? How do you get these people on calls? You have to know all of this before your book is out there, because that book is your nurture tool. It's where people read and they go, I love the way that Jared positioned that. And I think he's my guy. And I just got to know him in the book. And I need to know what he has in store for me next. So you have to have all of that in place and know what that is. And what we see with most of you guys is you don't have the monetization step in place. You're either creating a course after the fact, or you're doing things, you don't know. Seriously, I talk to you guys and it's like deer in the headlights. What do you need? Carrie Cassell, who was a big seller of her Domino Diet book, she's just this year gotten her courses up and she's rocking it. But wouldn't it have been amazing if she had all those courses in place and not in beta when the book came out? Because people could have read the book. It was amazing. It was smart. It was funny. And it was, very helpful. She's a dietitian, but she didn't have that next step for people. So it's funny because at the launch parties, we always talk. If you buy a launch party, we talk about those next steps, but it'd be even more fabulous if you had those next steps in place and ready to go when you launch. And then, so I think what I'm trying to say with all of this is that plan is the key. It's the key to your connection. It's the key to your community. It's the key to your impact. If nobody reads your book, if less than 100 people read your book because you don't have all this in place, you haven't made the impact that you set out to make, to create. And then the monetizing, how are you going to monetize it? Most people actually do not monetize or make money from their book. They make money, but they don't get their ROI from the book. It's what they do with the book and afterwards. So I will even tell you with my book, I used to write fiction novels. I made a lot of money that way. But with my nonfiction, that was like the wet your whistle and get into the quiz program. So those are the types of things you have to look at is knowing that next step is your big ROI on this project. So you need to have that in place and understand how to monetize, how to run a campaign to monetize, where you're going to do that at. So with that said, I think you're going to have to use the chat for questions. We do have, before I turn to the chat, Jared asked me to present something to you that you guys could get started with, because he knows you're all writing your book. You're all, for many of you, from what I saw from your quizzes, you really, really need it. We have a plan that we do with people, and the plan starts where you are. It's not a one size fits all. We actually talk to you, sit down, evaluate your platforms, evaluate your goal percentages, evaluate your connected messages, and then we review your goals that you actually tell us, this is what I want to do. And then we figure out a plan to get there. And normally we do that for $24.97. And for Jared's group, I especially put something together for you guys, and we will be doing it for $16.97. And as part of that, like I said, we do all that review, and then we meet with you twice. We meet with you before, and then we meet with you after the plan is completed and start going over your milestones and what needs to be done. We do not include the implementation in there. So we do have coaching programs, and Chris and I have a course going right now with Sarah called I Love Content. So if content's your big bugaboo, we might go ahead and suggest that you take that course and work one-on-one to do that. Nan has just signed up for the course a few days ago. So that's what we do, is we meet with you, we evaluate, we find out your goals, we review what you have, and then we lay out a plan for you to get where you want to be. So with that said, if you're interested in it, go jump on my calendar. It's chatwithjuliet.com. Talk to me about it, and let's see if we can get you going if that's something that you really, really think you need. And from what I saw from your quizzes, you all really, really need it. So I hate to be a downer on it, but yeah, it's a sticking point. So any questions? And I know Audrey was kind of stuck here. Audrey, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and I'll monitor the chat here. I'm so sorry this happened with this. I don't know how to fix yours. Any questions? I think you guys can just unmute and ask questions. Oh, they're a quiet gang. Jared, do you have any questions?
Well, no, I just really believe that what you just did was share the 50% of what's needed to have a book out there. And we don't, that's why we partnered with Juliet, because I just don't want anyone to put all of the creative energy and create an incredible book. And I think the story that you told about Carrie is something that happens very frequently. It's sort of like after the fact. And one of the things I would just want to add to this is I think as you're writing the book, for those of you that are writing a book that let's say as a little more didactic and would be considered, like a general nonfiction type of book, I think anything, even if you're doing a memoir, it's like you get your talking points, get them really clear so you know actually what you're going to be doing in the media. And then the second thing is build and create. So for instance, if you have your book, it's a nonfiction book on a particular subject, and you want to make a course while you're writing the book, extrapolate from that, create another, put it onto another document or wherever it is, and start working that on as well. And so, I did the quiz as well, and I have to say that I probably got an A, not an A plus. I had a couple of the weak links, but it's kind of almost essential. And I think that's why we're here. We realize, oh my God, I just don't want people writing a book and like, what do I do with it? I posted it on Facebook, but my friends are not responding. I just don't want to see that happen.
Yeah. Could I tell you guys a funny story? When I wrote my first fiction novel, my best friend and I would go running every day. And I'd say, so what did you think of it? And finally, after 3 months, she's like, I have to tell you, I didn't buy it. And I was like, what? And she's like, I didn't want to have to tell you if it was crap. And I was like, what kind of friend are you?
I had a friend that kind of mentioned something like that. And I told her, I said, you know what? Even if you think it's crap, leave a crappy review, because at least that'll catch somebody else to want to read that crap. And I was going to say the same thing as what's your name, Brian? I can't really see. My eyes aren't that great, but Facebook is nowhere. Facebook is actually nothing. But where do you find that audience, And I remember from the last meeting that we had with Shannon, I actually took a few steps forward, even though I don't have the book yet. It's in the process of being completed. I did reach out to a few different institutions regarding like the library there and, trying to reach out to kind of build a small audience there, since it is about justice. I kind of reached out to see where, a lot of people could benefit from it. So, but that's the only place I'm kind of stuck on that, because again, social media, Facebook and Instagram, I don't get good responses from people. You might have 1 or 2 people that like it. And then I've had several people that say, oh, I can't wait for it to come out. I can't wait to buy it. I'm going to buy it. It's only $4. And I'm like, did you buy the book? Oh, no, I didn't have a chance to get it yet. So you don't want to depend on you. I really don't want to depend on my friends. I would love to just reach a whole new audience of strangers that, are interested in what I might have to tell them.
Right.
I think a lot of my book, a lot of my experience, this is Joan. Hi. I got on. I made it. A lot of my experience is in the nonfiction and with like mental health. And so none of my friends, peeps, and any of them want to like expose themselves, because there's such a stigma to it. So I think that's why I moved away from doing fiction, or excuse me, nonfiction, and now I'm writing this fiction book. And I just wanted to say that what you presented was amazing, and I feel like I don't say I feel bad, but I do. I feel so terrible. I'm fail on everything. Like I think I scored a 0.
You didn't
I'm
score.
embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to tell you my score.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to share your score. Sorry. Well, let's see. There's a reason to. No, I think for most of you, I think the highest there was one person who came out pretty high, and she's been working with me for a year actually. Nan, you win.
I did. The computer nerd. Wow.
Yeah, Nan, the computer nerd. She has learned a lot and is getting in front of some good audiences, and she scored very, very high. But if you guys, she's like most of you when she started. Oh my gosh, like we really, really struggled with even using.
How do you sign into this? Where do you put that? How do you do this? Where does that go? You do what again? What? Yeah. No, I'm not there. Do it again. Okay.
Yeah.
So who taught you
Those-
that?
those were
That's
the
my
good
question.
days.
Who,
Those were
who,
the good days.
who sat with you and taught you that? Like how do you, is that
Juliet.
included?
That's yeah.
So that's included in the,
Thanks, Audrey. Yeah, that's not included with it. She goes, she's in a monthly program. We lay out what you do in the evaluation, but that's something separate. But even her being with us for a year, she still isn't to the point where she has content. So she just signed up for the I Love Content course so that she can work through that part of her platform that she hasn't addressed in the past. And we have we're in it right now with Dan Conroy. Dan, I don't think Dan made it on the call, but Dan has an amazing speed reading book, but his next step is speed reading courses, but he doesn't have an audience built yet. He doesn't know how to post on social media. He barely knows how to use social media, which we hear a lot. Like Jared sent us somebody about 2 months ago who literally didn't know he had a LinkedIn account. I went and found it and I said, you have it. And he's like, oh, I do. So, it's that level where people are there and then they expect to sell a book. And he's very frustrated right now. We just did a press release for him, but he doesn't understand any of the mechanics of social media and content and list building it took us 3 tries to put a YouTube video up. So, it's stuff like that where you don't know what you don't know.
It may sound a little harrowing, this whole process, and probably some people listening right now are like, "Oh my God, it's overwhelming." You know what? How much time you should clock? How much time? Don't ask me. You spend just like Instagram, Facebook, scrolling. Oh, got married with a high school friend. You wouldn't believe if you just did that and like searched for the conferences that are happening next year. And guess what? If they're happening next year, have your book cover, your synopsis, and a video done, because when you apply to speak at that conference, you say, oh yes, my book is coming out from Dreamscope Books in February. That's when the conference is. Oh, that's fantastic. As opposed to just, I have a book coming out. They see that, they get a sense of how you fit in. So I would say, I really believe that's why I felt it was so important tonight, and continue to have these conversations. Have a strategy. I just want to share this one thing because I say this all the time. This whole process there's a lot of moving parts that need to be synchronized.
so is that the,
You take that bit of logic to sit down and do a timeline and know exactly what you want to do. That's one point there is see the vision of how you see it. The book, you speaking, whatever it is that you're doing on television, have that vision, and now reverse engineer it and see what the milestones are, and begin one milestone at a time.
Yeah.
so is that what you quoted? Is that what you're going to do?
That is the plan. We don't do the implementation is separate, but that's what. So Nan is in a monthly coaching with me. We meet every other week, and we take her plan, which has changed so many times now. We take her plan and we make sure that she's on track. So maybe one time we set up her Octopus CRM. The next time she's loading it. The next time she's setting up her email list. We actually had to go find her email list. She had one and she didn't know how to get into it. So now we've got the email list attached. We are doing an opt-in. She's doing her opt-in is being created right now so that people can get into a downloadable program that she has, a video that she's recording. So it's putting all those pieces in steps in pieces. So obviously we've got to get the content. We've got to get your social media so you're proficient at it. We have to now start to transition those people from social media into that list. And into that list means we need an opt-in to get them into the list. We need to have something for them to consume to get into the list. And that thing to consume should never be the first chapter of your book. Ever. It's not interesting. You need to get them curious about something else to get them to the book later. That's what we're building this for, is to sell the book later. So it's just that step-by-step process where we work on one piece, and we integrate it, we work on another piece, we integrate it, so that by the time we're launching, we have everything in place we need. And it takes, Anne's been with me since February of 2021.
Do you have do you help us to do this plan? Not actually implement it, but to write this whole entire process out, the general cost of the whole entire process, and from beginning to end, and kind of that scaffolding, that blueprint.
Yeah,
Is that what you're talking about? Is that what the 16?
The 1697 is we're putting all that plan together for you to sort of have those milestones. And then what we find is if you don't have the skill, and Joan, from talking to you before, I think you have some skills in some of those areas and maybe not some of the others from what you told me about your past experience. So then we start, if you get stuck, then you can go into the one-on-one coaching with us like Nan is. And like I said, Nan could barely touch a computer, and now she's a whiz.
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, okay, maybe not a whiz, but yeah, we can do the pieces that you can't implement on your own. You can go into the one-on-one coaching to get help with those. And that's what we do. A lot of times we end up setting up mail servers. Do you have a website? And if it's the website, do you have an opt-in to get to the mail server? Okay, what are we going to give away inside of that opt-in? Now we've got the list. If you started with content, now you have something to feed those people every week to keep you top of mind. And that's really our goal, is keeping you top of mind and getting those people not only into your book, but making them clients.
I just want to add something else, and that is that, I like what you said about the sample chapter. I questioned Amazon back then. That's why I created the M2 ebook. It was like, maybe give a holistic experience of something instead of like you read a one shot. Like, who wants to read a chapter and then the rest of the book? It doesn't work that way, and I don't think it's been very effective. I actually think with social media, I think really video is going to be a lot more effective than any text. And interesting enough, I've researched a lot of publishers. Most of them, they don't even produce video. So,
Yeah.
What Juliet was saying is like, keep it a minute or two. I mean, we create the 30-second sort of mash up, social media book videos, but you can create, everyone has, the ability, but do very short snippets. I think that's what I see as well when they do like a Facebook Live. Thinking that people are gonna they really have a half hour during the day. The very flat image doesn't move; it's just a flat image of somebody talking. So, I mean, really take a look that you want to create something very kinetic, and to get people to sort of seduce them. And the other thing that I like to add to this is curiosity factor. Maybe you don't even tell if I click. Most of the things I click on are based on my own curiosity. It's like, well, I wonder what that is. I'm just going to look at it. I'm not going to get in. I'm just going to look at, oh, I see, but people do that. And then once they get in, it's like, if it's authentic and good, which I trust everyone that I'm working with and all of the authors, you're going to create a book that's true to who you are, that's filled with your wisdom. You want people in the book, but they're not going to get it by reading a simple chapter or just reading text. You have to engage a little bit more than that.
Yeah, that is so true, because again, people don't hire you because of what you do. because there are a lot of people out there who do what you do. Without there's very few jobs out there or businesses that don't. They're going to hire you because of you, your unique take on it, your personality. I can tell you meek people don't work with me. Like I can tell right away, like, oh, so that they're going to go work with someone who is a little less out there, a little less, hey, did you do your homework? Well, why not? You're paying me. So it's going to be, things like that. And if you've ever had people show up and buy a program and then they don't show up, it's really frustrating. And that frustrates me. So that's why you need to get out there with all this content and everything that we're talking about and really shine, because that's what they're going to hire you from. And if you're over on LinkedIn, it's, do a LinkedIn Live for 5 minutes. You don't need a whole lot of something, just need a little bit consistently to keep people interested. Anybody else? Questions?
Yeah, would you think that would work for a screenplay? Supposing you think your book is pretty good, or it has some qualities to make a pretty good film, maybe for Lifetime, maybe even just something for YouTube. Would that you do the same process as promoting your book and all that stuff, or do you just kind of let the screenplay take precedent, over the book?
Talk to Chris Johnson about screenplays.
I was going to ask her that, and she's gone.
She's an award-winning screenwriter. So
I know. I just contacted her. I said I was going to ask her a question, and she left. So I'll contact her.
She's the person to ask about that. If you think your book is worthy of that, and yours is a social justice book, so that is a very relevant topic right now. So
yeah,
I don't know about a movie, but maybe a documentary. I don't know what's there.
Maybe a small film.
Let me mention this. Something that people should think of if they really want to move in that direction is just create your own little mini doc. It could be 5 or 10 minutes that gives an experience, because
like a trailer, like do your own trailer.
Well, not necessarily a trailer, because a trailer is not going to be of high quality, and unless there's an investment in the film. But I'm just saying, creating something that's your own, like mini doc, that's fun and edgy, and that's just really, it's a little different. You could, in other words, you can actually do stuff where you do cut-ups, where you're talking and maybe you have some stock, but just be real and let it rip. That's what I want everyone to know. Like, that's what happens. That's what people connect with.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens. And you trust that. Trust that you're going to make those connections. I mean, if you make 1,000 great connections, maybe you're in front of 100 million people. I mean, so those 1,000 connections. So there's enough people out there. So I would say, a really good idea for everyone is to just sit and really go deep into, before even talking with Juliet, and definitely talk to her about what that vision is. And I just think it's a very, very important thing to see the fullness of the vision. And how do you get there? Because I hear people that exactly like, if you want to do a screenplay and pitch it, people say, well, where do I find that? I mean, there's a lot of different variables. So sometimes you have to do a lot more researching to find the pathway that's right for you. I know people want to get going because it's close to the hour here. So I really appreciate your ability to articulate in a very short period of time just what people freaking need to have a platform. So
I know
that's my thank you, and
so
whatever else you want to share.
So you guys, I wasn't planning on doing a replay, but we had so many problems that I will be sending a replay out. I believe this automatically records. So we'll get a replay up and over to Jared in the next day or two so that you can go back and see it all. And I apologize for all of the tech drama.
We didn't notice it.
I had a whole deck of slides here that I had for you that you could take pictures of, and you could really see the bullet points of what I was talking about. So once again, if you're interested in getting that plan put together, seeing what it looks like, you can jump on my calendar. It's www.chatwithjuliet.com, and Juliet is Juliet. And the plan is just tell me that you were on this call, so I give you Jared's pricing that I put together for the event, because it is $800 off of what we usually charge. So, and don't be surprised if in the process of this, I ask a lot of questions about skill level, and I may be recommending, a course or two here and there if I really think that there's some skill sets that need to get a little bit better to make this all work. So thank you for showing up. And again,
Thank you.
Thank you so much
Thank
for the
you.
invite, Juliet.
Great
Thank you for
job, and you
sharing
don't
your
need the
expertise.
bells and whistles. You don't need
Really
anything.
good.
You do a great presentation. You don't
okay.
need the
Thank
slide.
you.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.